Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Performance Paradox. I'm Chris Hamley. I'm the host. This is our very first episode, so bear with us as we figure this thing out. Appreciate everybody taking the time and joining us for hopefully it's an insightful conversation about something. We we hope to talk about how to make life better in general. While a lot of our conversation will focus around supply chain and how to get better, one of the things that we've discovered over the years is everybody we come in contact with in our line of work in supply chain ops is around wanting to get better ultimately. And a lot of times people don't understand how to get from point A to point B and actually how to go make that happen. And in the performance paradox, we want to kind of explore kind of very easy tactical ways to kind of turn the idea of getting better, that strategy of what it is to go do, into truly actionable things and how to go do them. So today we're going to talk about how to fail faster. That's the name of the episode today. And while that sounds kind of contradictory to when you talk about getting better, but ultimately we want to kind of discuss what that means to us and how we approach it and how to incorporate that into what you do. So we've got a bunch of people with us today. We've got some of our team that have had plenty of opportunities to fail faster. And over the past several years, they've been with me a long time. So let's jump right in. So with me, I've got Jimmy, Andy, and Jason. You guys want to do a quick introduction?
Hey guys, yeah. So my name's Andy Smith. I've been in supply chain for about 30 years, held roles from operations and operations support, network design, and solution development, and have spent time in retail, in healthcare, in 3PLs and transportation. So done a little bit of everything.
Jason?
Yeah, Jason Freed. I'm not quite as old as Andy, but only 25 years of supply chain. Started life as an industrial engineer, moved into operations after that, ran some distribution centers, networks of distribution centers, and got conned into going along with Chris on this Brecken Group journey about 13 years ago, and been doing it ever since.
Yeah. Jimmy?
Well, I'm the young guy in the group, but have an exciting background. If you consider I came from aviation out of college as a pilot and then got into e-commerce at a very large e-commerce operation with shoes distribution, auto parts distribution, even more e-commerce. Along the way, I met up with Chris in the auto parts distribution world, and we've known each other for about 8 to 9 years, and I've been working for him directly for a little over 6.5 years. So it's been a good time and a great journey. It's good to see all these guys as handsome as they may be.
Yeah. I think the common theme here is I've conned you all into coming to do this at some point in time. So appreciate that.
Right.
Yeah.
Con might be a strong word, but you know.
Exactly. So look, hey, we got people joining. Who saw that coming? So we got Ohio, Costa Rica, Lebanon, Tennessee. So shout out, guys. Appreciate you guys joining.
All right.
Hopefully get something.
Fire from Leah.
Oh, how
Sounds
about
like all my relatives joined.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Our joke earlier was comments from your mom don't count. So in reality, so I have a pretty easy mantra for us, and it's about sucking less. We talk about it all the time, and it's about how do we get a little better. And like I said, today is the beginning of our suck less journey when it comes to this. So hopefully the future episodes will be more insightful, but we'll get through this one, I'm sure. So kind of talking about this, one of the things we always ask with our teams as we go through things is like it or hate it. We really want somebody to get something out of it. And, sometimes we want people to agree with us and like what we say. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's the inverse of that. You get more out of what we don't say or the opposing opinion to what we have, which is fine. As long as somebody thinks about it and gets something out of it, we're pretty happy, actually. So again, hopefully you guys get something through there at the end of this. So with that, let's jump into failing fast. Guys, what's that mean to you? Andy, any take on it?
I mean, for me, it's be wrong doing something, right? I mean, it's the shelter in place is not going to necessarily make things better. It's not, for my money, it's not permission to be reckless, permission to be unsafe or do irresponsible things. But what it does kind of call, in my mind, is call people to, a focus on action, right? Go get it done. And then, by the way, if you learn something, fantastic. Let's do it a little different. Let's do it a little better the next time.
Yeah. Yeah. It absolutely is. It's that if you think about your career, my career particularly, I've learned a ton of stuff over the years, and hardly ever did I learn something by it going well. I learned more through the failure points, and on the back end of that, saying, "Boy, I don't ever want to do that again." And I think we do that in life in general, right? Which is we learn from our mistakes and move on. And if we don't make mistakes, how are we ever going to learn anything?
Oh yeah, no, it sucks when you're crawling across that field of broken glass. But once you get on the other side, you know how to crawl around it the next time, which is important.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess what's the value in failing faster? Why do we care?
Yeah, I'll take that. First, I'll say bonjour to our French Canadians out there. Thanks for joining out there.
Yeah.
And I probably
Bonjour.
butchered that French accent, but do what you can do. So yeah, as far as the value in it, I mean, ultimately it's, I guess, a couple things. One is everybody has levers in their operation that they pull to make things happen, right? And people are used to those levers, and really, though, you may not actually know what changes and what's going to happen, right? So you need to go out there and find out what happened. And if you fail, you need to understand why, and learn from it and move on. I mean, the other thing really is, even in failure, you get that forward momentum of actually making stuff change. A lot of times, even, us, when we're trying to help clients, or even back in our leadership days, it's people fear the change and they don't want to do it, right? And it's just, here, this thing is being dictated to me. But if you go out there and fail alongside them, it also helps create that extra ownership that they're in it with you. And when everybody understands, all right, this is why we failed doing this. Okay, it didn't work exactly as we hypothesized it would. But then you understand it, and then say, okay, help me make this go. What kind of things can we make it better? So again, any forward momentum that you can gain from that, even if it's a failure, it helps that overall culture of just improvement and driving forward.
Yeah. No, I love the comments. Actually, Lee made a good point, right? The faster you fail, the sooner you succeed, and that's absolutely true, right? And yeah, the point that there isn't really such a thing as failure. Ultimately, I think we've all been through points we would argue that at times. In the moment, it doesn't always feel that way, but on the back end of it, we always learn something from it, right? And the value of that learning is tenfold whatever the pain was ultimately. And the biggest thing that I think we kind of universally see, and we get the opportunities to go into people's organizations and help them kind of think about their operation differently and how to get better and start building that culture. And too often, we see the idea of, we have to have the perfect solution before we're willing to do anything. Right. And these guys know that I always throw out the old, there's a patent line, which is an 80% plan violently executed today is better than 100% plan tomorrow. And we live and breathe that. We don't always have the perfect answer, but we have a good enough answer to start moving. And then the learnings allow us to really kind of iterate and get better as we go through that process to finally get to the right answer. But if we sit back and wait till we're perfect, the one thing that we're going to be surprised at the end is we were still wrong. Right. So if we don't try anything and learn anything along the way, it doesn't matter how good we think the plan is going in, it's probably still going to change when you get there. So,
yeah. And we've had, just to add on to that, clients relatively recently, large companies, worldwide companies, that was the 100% plan was the problem. We couldn't get anything to go forward because nobody was 100% comfortable, rather than just, let's go and let's try something and figure it out. So it even mature companies have the same problem. Everybody's got the same problem. Big ones, small ones, everybody's afraid of that. And you got to get past it. You got to just go and try stuff. So,
hey, a shout out to Lowell actually giving us a question. So how do you know an idea is failure and a good time to pivot? Wait, how do you know? Right? When do you decide, hey, that didn't work?
hopefully you had some metrics to measure. So you have to have a measuring stick. And if it's not meeting that measuring stick or those go, no-go decisions, you want to pivot quickly, because you don't have to take it to the failure process. If it's not meeting the plan as you have laid out, I would say it's time to start pivoting immediately. And that says on two things, though. Is it a just do it type of project that you're working on, that there is no negative side effect, it's additive only? Then sure, let it go a little bit longer. But if it has some negative side effects, it may cause some disruption in your service to customer quality. Then you want to use those metrics that you set up to stop it sooner before it fails.
Yeah, I think you could establish a set of criteria going in, right? It's like, okay, well, if we're at 80% of goal by X date or Y hour, then okay, we're on plan. So it can simply be a matter of let's decide what good looks like on the way to expectation. And if you're trailing off, then there's a point where you revisit.
Yeah, and we use words like KPIs and whatnot, right? And what good looks like, and that's all great stuff, right? In an operational environment, those things make sense. You think about it just in general, though, and you start thinking that if you go into something, you did it for a reason. At least understanding the reason that you're going to go do it, and then doing it on the back end, just kind of that moment of reflection of, did I get what I expected out of it? And the sooner you can reflect on that and make that decision, the faster you can pivot. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer as long as you do it, right? Yeah. Doing it sooner is generally better than later. You don't want to do something for a month and decide, well, that was a horrible idea, let's stop that. Ideally, you want to fail a little faster in that, right? But when we started, I used the line "suck less" earlier, and that started actually in a business environment where we were running a distribution center for an organization, and it was just going really badly. And I went to my management team, and after a couple of days of me being on the job, and pulled them all together and said, boy, this really looks like it sucks, because they were literally getting their asses kicked every day by somebody for something, right? And they were beat down and didn't have time to go do everything they needed to do to be successful. They got sucked into all these conversations. And, what I asked them to do was, I just want you to go find one thing to make tomorrow suck a little less than today. So our goal is just to suck less tomorrow, ultimately. And I said, I don't care what it is, don't care what you try, but it's got to be something. And at the end of the day, you've got to tell me what that was. And did you get what you expected out of it? And if the answer is no, stop it. Go back to what you were doing yesterday then, right? But the sooner you recognize that and take that moment of reflection, it gives you the opportunity to decide if you failed fast or not, right? And if you don't have that reflection point, we've seen a ton of times, and I know Jimmy, Jason, you guys just lived an experience where, they make changes, but didn't actually follow up. You want to tell us a story?
Oh, go ahead, Jason.
No, you got it, Jimmy. I was actually going to shout out to our local celebrity, Sarah, joined us, who helped us venture into this podcast world. So thanks for showing up, Sarah. Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, a couple examples. Go ahead, Sarah. No, good question, Chris. But before I went into that, I just want to say that in order to fail fast, you got to empower your people. You got to trust them. So assuming that you have that trust and empowerment to those folks to want to take an action, so they're not worried of failing, because if they're worried of failing, they're not going to try new things. So you got to set that. And if your people are worried about failing, or you don't trust them, or you can't empower them, then the problem isn't your people. You need to look a little bit inward on that one. But as you talk about, starting a project and not keeping it, it's simple things like a startup meeting. Recently, Jason and I have been at a company and helping them try to reduce some of their increase their utilization rate, reduce their downtime, and they run a startup meeting. And we set up a script, standard work, safety tip, operations plan, labor distribution, and it took about 7 minutes with stretches. So we gave that to them. We've been out there, we've walked them through it, we've demonstrated it, and they start doing it. And after about 2 days, they start skipping the script a little bit and getting off, and then they're leaving the labor distribution off, or yesterday's plan and what we learned, whether we succeeded or failed. and it kind of falls back to where they were before. So not keeping up that process and all the good things that came from it. And you can see why you go back a week later and say, what happened? Well, you see that they weren't following the process you set up. That's where audits come in. I'm sure that'll be another topic or another show altogether. But back over to Jason and Andy of what they've seen in that kind of simple explanation or example.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's absolutely it. If there's no follow-up, and let's be clear, we've talked about the pivot when it fails, right? Pivot doesn't mean I stop doing it. Pivot means I'm changing. All right, I got to pull a different lever. We're still going after the same goal, but we didn't get there with our original point. So, it's really about that constant follow-up and feedback to say, what are we doing? I mean, some things are pretty easy and to change. We had, I'll tell on one of our colleagues, he was running shuttles between warehouses, and he was going to reduce the number of shuttles. So he filled that truck up. Well, guess what? It didn't make it up the hill, and it actually crashed into the ditch. That's pretty easy indicator that
stop doing that.
Yeah, we should probably not do that. Let's find a different way maybe to reduce shuttles and all of that.
Pretty sure he had a bunch of people tell him not to do that again.
Yeah.
Well, maybe one more time tomorrow. We'll try one more time. And then make sure
right. Maybe with a different driver.
But, different driver.
Yeah. But there's plenty of it. The fail, and I guess that's part of it too, is you go and fail, and if people are used to the way they've always done it, right, that first failure, they're going to stop and revert and then say, oh man, we got to go back to do this. And that kind of goes to, actually I see Brandon posted a question about the paradigm shift and all of that. Where does it come from, top down? It needs to come from everywhere. But for sure, leadership has to buy in and has to rally the troops to say, guys, we're making this change and we're going in this direction. Yep, day one, fail. Okay, that's fine. You know what? Nobody got hurt. Everybody's safe. We're still doing our thing. Let's keep going. We can't just immediately stop and revert back. And that happens to us a lot on projects. When we go out there and we have this radical new idea, which may not be radical, it's just they've always done it the same way for the last 30 years or whatever it is, and we go and try and see, I told you it wouldn't work. Well, okay, well let's make sure we get to the bottom of it of why it didn't work, and keep pushing forward, because we all have the same goal of improving.
Exactly. I mean, that's so often what we work on, or what we talk about and what we see is whether it's overstaffing or what have you, right? A fail fast or a suspension of disbelief is, we'll put half the people on the floor and let's see what happens, or put 25% less on the floor and let's see what happens. If the same people work with the same sense of urgency, with the same amount of indirect time, and all the same behavior sets continue forward, then you're not going to see a different answer, right? So it's a combination of remove the resources, reestablish, what that plate, that field looks like, so to speak, and then also set maybe new ground rules, right? Reestablish the expectations.
Well, I think maybe a little more simple approach to it, and as you guys know, I'm the king of kind of breaking stuff down. It comes to a couple of things, right? The first one is that somebody, that leader, and it could be, to Brandon's question, it could be, a floor leader, could be anybody in the organization ultimately, but it starts with somebody picking up the banner that says, hey, we want to get better. We want to do something different, and define what that means, right? Mm-hmm. So having a vision of what better means, not just for the sake of getting better, but there's a goal in mind, right? And I think maybe the bigger component of that is the idea that it's okay to fail. It's okay if you're trying to get better and something happens. We're not killing people if things go wrong. We know it's likely, but we have to be okay with those things, right? We have to be okay that it's good to take a chance. Now, again, a mitigated risk chance, right? We're not going to go out and try to risk people's bodily injury, those kind of things, or, we're not jumping off cliffs. That's the goal, right? But at the same time, it's, how do you make it okay to go try something different, all with the intent of if we achieve the goal, everybody's life gets better. And we can define what better means, but ultimately it's easier to do their jobs. They get less hassle at work. They have a higher quality of life, whatever that is that makes it better for them. And that's really the role of the leader in that, is building that culture that it's okay to go do those things. Right. On the back end, how did I self-assess that? Is it really working or not? And to then ultimately pivot as you discover more. You think about continuous improvement, and really it's just that kind of mindset that I'm going to try something and it's going to get me somewhere, but now what's next? How's the next change going to impact that?
Yeah, I think that next is key, especially for a lot of people that they don't know that they need to improve. There's a lot of operations out there that they do well, and they take care of their customer. They ship what they're supposed to ship. They might have a overtime trend that's kind of high, but we see a lot of, especially operations managers, and we all did it too. It's like, well, I'm hitting my budget, so I don't care, right? So even though it could be, we've had clients too that it's like, run overtime. I don't care. Service is king. Let's run overtime. And now I'm, my overtime percentage has gone from 10 or 12% up to 20 and 30, but they don't care because they're hitting service. Well, somebody's going to care in finance at some point. So, it's about that, that continuous improvement mindset of making sure that everything's up for grabs. Nothing, there's nothing that is so good that there's nothing that can be done about it to improve it or anything like that too. So, that's another trap that we see people get into. They don't know that they need to go out and change and fail and do something.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to, how do you create the culture for it, right? Where it's okay. And there's a desire and prove that it's okay that they could try something, right? I think as we think about the idea of the performance paradox, right, of people just not knowing how to get better. And I think the first step of that in this fail fast kind of mindset is you've got to try something, right? And the longer you wait to try, to Lee's comment earlier, right? It's, if you don't try faster, you're never going to succeed either, right? The sooner you start, the better, right? I think this in our careers and doing this for a long time now. Have you guys ever been 100% sure of an answer going into, an effort, right? Any type of continuous improvement change. You ever been 100% sure with anything?
Absolutely not.
No.
I've been 100% sure of the direction the arrow was going to be pointed, but sort of the angle of the arrow, is kind of the mystery, right? And there's something wrong here. That there's an opportunity because you're seeing all the telltale signs. You just simply don't know if it's 8, 12, 17, whatever, right? Some measure of improvement, which comes down to all the details.
Yeah. Well, and what happens is because of that, I'm with you. I don't know if I've ever been 100% sure about anything. Now, some days you ask me, I might say I was 100% sure, but I was probably lying to you. At the end of the day, though, right, what people end up doing, though, when you're unsure, you're not 100% sure, people often like to bring in others and talk about it, right? And their intent is great, and I'm trying to gain more perspective and understanding, right? But because they never reach that 100%, they keep increasing the group of people they're talking to. And now it becomes a larger, broader conversation that people are engaged in. And I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't include people. I'm trying to say, though, that more people are all just going to be at the same point you're at, that at some point in time, you just have to make a decision that I'm going to go try this, right? And you've got to be okay with that risk. Now, again, we're not suggesting that people take reckless chances with anything, right? But it is very much, how do you just say, okay, yeah, let's go do this. Let's try it.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? Sort of mentality, right? Again, not with disregard, but just simply with a certain amount of adventure and maybe an obligation to improve.
And it's also about keeping the right perspective too. Because like you mentioned, you get in those conversations and somebody's like, well, what about these orders that we have? You know, we sometimes will get twice the number of lines that we have to pick or whatever else. And when you step back, like, that happens once every 7 months. So pretty sure that that's not going to be a problem for us right now. But people get hung up on those one-off things all the time. Jimmy and I were the recent project, they had tons of those. And it's like, wait, you're talking about a 2% occurrence. Let's go solve the other stuff first. We'll worry about that when it happens. And people can get kind of spun around on their wheels a little bit talking about all that stuff. So yeah, it's bias for action and let's drive forward.
Yeah. Bias for action is important. I mentioned it, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people, and I related to Chris, my boss, what he'll tell to me, but I tell them all the time, it is so much better to have a conversation with your boss about why something failed and what you did to fix it or what you learned from it versus having a conversation with boss about not doing anything. Have that conversation with boss about what you did and what it did or didn't work versus not doing anything if there's things that can be improved out there. We talk about that all the time. I think that's an important distinction.
Hey, Chris, we've got just a couple minutes left here. We got a follow-up question asking about dealing with cautious employees or clients when it comes to change. Like, basically, how do we get them in the boat comfortable?
I think there are a couple things you got to do. Obviously, communication and involve people in the process, right? How do you talk to them, explain what we're trying to accomplish? And again, setting the culture that we know that this isn't the answer, that it's an evolution, right? That we're going to try this. It's a thoughtful risk that we're taking. And we know that we're going to learn more as we go through that process. And it's really educating them about the environment, that it's okay to try, right? Caution usually comes from, think about it as when we were all kids, right? At some point in time, we learned not to touch the hot stove, right? So to this point, we check that it's off before we touch the stove, right? We learned those things. Well, the same thing's true in any work environment. People learn behaviors, right, based on previous reactions, and we have to make it okay and change the culture so it's okay to have a different reaction. I can touch the stove again because I guaranteed I turned it off, right?
Yeah, it goes back to that leadership piece, that they can set that stage to say, yes, it's okay to go and try this stuff, because you're right. And that cautious employee or something, they've been bitten once in the past because something didn't go right. So we got to make sure everybody's comfortable with, yes, it's okay to go and try this change out. Again, we've set parameters already to say we're not going to get anybody hurt. We're going to make sure we're still taking care of customer and everything else. But it's okay to go, and if it doesn't come, and we pivot. So, Fiuella, thank you for the comment. We think we're funny. At least one other person now.
You're hilarious.
We're funny too.
we enjoy ourselves. Yeah, also
we entertain each other.
So, yeah, we've been doing this a long time.
We try.
And as we wrap up here, first of all, this actually was our attempt at failing faster. We could have spent a lot more time preparing for this.
Or some time preparing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But no, and that's it. We have the expectation we're going to learn from this. Appreciate everybody joining us and spending the time with us as you listen to this. Like I said, to begin with, I hope you got something out of it, good, bad, or indifferent. Just one thought-provoking, hey, there was an interesting idea there. Whatever that is, we wish that you the best in trying that. We're going to go back to our mantra of suck less, and our commitment to our next episode, which will be in about a month from now, will be to suck less than this time.
Right.
Only one place to go from here, guys. Only one place to go. It's only
it may mean a different face on there.
Smash that like button.
What we sucker, but yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, smash the like button. Is that what you
Visit us on
like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Good job, Boomer. You called it.
Yeah. Follow us on LinkedIn. As we're the Breckham Group. We specialize in supply chain operations, but really this is the wisdom you get. We're sorry now.
That's right. This is all we
We
got.
have to debrief
So,
this and hear what
yeah.
we failed on.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.